Theory of demand and supply. So when it comes to the law of demand, the elasticity of demand, the law of supply, elasticity of supply, we need to understand the concepts first before we delve into the calculations. So to start with, we must understand the meaning of demand. So usually people miss the concept of demand to relating it to simply a mere desire or a want. But it's more than just a wish. It's more than just a desire. So when dealing with demand, basically in economics, we're looking at a desire that is backed up by two things: ability to pay and the willingness to pay. So demand therefore refers to, for a good and a service, the ability and willingness that consumers have to purchasing a commodity at different prices during a specific time period. So there's number one, price in this context. Number two, period. Number three, purchasing power. So demand has several determinants. These determinants of demand are what derive what we call the derived demand. So demand has the following. Number one, we have the price of a commodity. Price of a commodity. So price of commodity is the only factor that causes the movement along the demand curve. Other factors will cause a shift. So the price of a commodity will cause an increase in quantity demanded and vice versa. So this happens because of two kinds of effects. There's what we call the income effect, and there's what we call the substitution effect. What is an income effect and what is a substitution effect? Income effect arises in the context where your income increases and then the behavior changes. Number one, when your income increases, you're going to demand more of the normal goods. When your income increases, you're going to shift demand from inferior goods to normal goods. For instance, in a context of goods like the thrifted goods, those ones become inferior. You want to go to another type of good which is superior. So this is the effect that happens in pricing. Then the price of related goods, which we have, and the related goods, in this case, we have what we call substitute and complement. Substitutes and complement. So what are substitute goods? Substitute goods are goods that have the same use or equal use in place of another. Examples of substitute goods could be MTN and Airtel, Coca-Cola and Pepsi, a ball pen and ink pen, tea and coffee. So when one becomes expensive, you shift demand to the other. Substitution effect. Now, for any particular good, there's a positive relationship if those goods are substitutes. And that's the reason why substitute goods always have a positive elasticity of demand. Substitute goods always have a positive elasticity of demand. On the other hand, we have what we call complementary goods. Complementary goods are simply goods whose utility depends upon the availability of both goods. Without the other, one is useless. And these two have an inverse relationship. The inverse relationship is a negative relationship in the sense that if one good becomes expensive, you demand none of them. So examples of complementary goods are petrol and a car. You discover that when a car becomes expensive, or when a fuel becomes expensive, most assuredly you demand less of both goods. So we also have another key factor which is called the income. Holding all things constant, income has a direct relationship. Ideally, you'd want to buy more of a particular good with an increase in income. Okay, so that is what happens. Now, under income, we have three types of goods that we're going to now consider. They are what we call normal goods, which range into comfort and necessary. So when we're dealing with related goods, I made mention that in related goods, there are two effects that you're going to have, or two outcomes that you're going to have. Number one, you will have a situation where if the related goods that you have, if you have a negative or a positive. For a positive, this is called a substitute good. For the related goods, we have a negative, that is what we call a complementary good. So that's what you need to know, the complement. Then we go to another type of good which we have, where we're going to now look at income. So income either has a normal good or has an inferior good. So these two work like this. When we have a positive, our zero is here. When we have a positive, what we have is what? A normal good. When we have a negative, what we have is what? An inferior good. So for the normal good, if elasticity is between 0 and 1, it is a necessity. When it is more than 1, it is a comfort good. Or this is a what? A luxurious good. So in this context, you need to understand elasticity as well. Elasticity is simply the responsiveness that we have in demand for a particular good with changes in price and the other factors that affect demand. So quick, can you remember? What are some of the factors that affect demand? There are about 12 factors. What are they? Number one, price of that particular good X. So this gives us elasticity X on X, which is simply given by the slope, the price of X, and the quantity of that particular product X. It is also called on-price elasticity. What other good do we have? Price of a complementary good and price of what? A substitute good. So for on-price elasticity, what we're interested in basically is to understand what type of elasticity we have. We can have any number between 0 to -1. This is called what? Inelastic. As long as it has anything 0 point something. For instance, -0.1, -0.2, -0.3, up to -0.9. All these are inelastic. But if you have exactly -1, it is unit elastic. Unit elastic. It means you increase demand price by 1%, you reduce demand by 1%. Increase by 5%, reduce demand by 5%. Then you have numbers more than 1, -1.1, -1.2, -3, -4, upwards. All this is what? Elastic. Then we have price of related goods. This is on-price elasticity, which we also call PED, price elasticity of demand. Then we have cross-price elasticity of demand. This is the elasticity ya kwa kumbwa. It can cross from one to another. All right. So we could have from good X to good Y. So when we have this is a gradient of good Y, the price of good Y, and quantities of good X throughout. So here, who remembers? When you get a positive, what does it mean? When you get a negative, what does it mean? When you get a positive, what does it mean? When you get a negative, what does it mean?
The positive is a substitute good and the negative is a complementary good.
Correct. The positive is a substitute good, and then negative is complementary good. Then we go to income. Income, elasticity of what? Of M. This is a gradient for M times the income itself over the quantity of X. So this is called income elasticity. Income is denoted by I, M, or Y. So even this one has what? Two connotations. It's a positive or it's a negative. When it's a positive, what does it mean? It's a negative, what does it mean? When it's positive, it's a normal good. When it's a negative, it is what? An inferior good. All right. So we have other factors that affect demand, like taste, like technology, expectations, weather, population, etc., etc. There are many factors. I'm going to only depend on these 3 or 4. In the context where you're given a direct demand function, you have 10 minus 15 price of X minus or plus 5 price of Y and plus 10 M. And we are told that price of good X is 2 kwacha, price of good Y is 10 kwacha, and income, this was 10, or let's say 20 kwacha. So let us calculate our sales or our quantity in units. We substitute. Where there is price of X, we put a 2. Where there is price of Y, we put a 10. Where there is the income, we put a what? A 20. So this will simply give us 10 minus 30, which is 20, plus 50, which is 30, plus 200, which is 230. So this is negative 20, and this is 30. So this is 230. Now, the gradient for X is minus 15. The gradient for Y is positive 5. And the gradient for the income, positive 10. So just by looking here, we're able to tell what types of goods these are. Good X and good Y have opposite signs. They are opposing each other, they're competing. So we can tell that these are complementary, they are substitute goods. If there was negative here and negative here, they are moving the same direction. They are complementing each other. Opposite signs, opposite views, it means they are substitutes. All right. The other way to know that they are substitute goods is when the elasticity of demand we get is positive. When it's a negative, they are complementary goods. Then we go to a gradient for the income. When the income has a positive gradient, it is a normal good. When the income has a negative gradient, it is an inferior good. Are we together so far? All right. So now we go to calculating the elasticities. So price elasticity of demand is the gradient for good X times the price of good X. Everything is about good X and the quantity of good X. So this is called on price elasticity. What is the gradient for good X? Negative 15. What is the price for good X? 2. What is our total quantity? 230. So here we're going to have 30 divided by what? 230. So already, even if I don't calculate the answer, I'm able to tell that this is what? This is inelastic. So we're going to get negative 130, negative 1.30. So because it's starting with a 0 point something, our comment is that this is inelastic. Inelastic. Then we go to the cross price elasticity. Cross price elasticity is a gradient for good what? Y times the price for good Y times the quantity for good X. Is crossing from good Y to good X. What is the gradient for good Y? Positive 5. What is the price of good Y? 10 over 230. So you're going to get a what? 50 over 230. And the answer is positive. Who remembers? When you get a positive cross price elasticity, what does it mean? It means 0.217. It means that what? Substitutes. All right. This one doesn't miss. Then we go to the income elasticity of demand, or MAD. It's the same thing. Or IAD. Because Y is income, M is income, I is income. It's the same thing. We interchange these letters. So what is the gradient for the income times the actual income over quantity of X? So the gradient for the income was what? Positive 10. The actual income was what? 20. The total here we have what? 200 over 230. 200 over 230, what do we get? We get a positive answer. So 0.869. 0.870, round it off. So since it's a positive here, what type of good is this? It's a normal good. Are we together? That's a normal good. Anyone behind so far? Anyone behind so far? I hope we're on the same page. All right. Let's go to the.
Can I see the previous screen?
Okay. Previous screen.
Yeah, the previous screen.
Is this a screen you're looking for? Are we there?
Yes. Just yes, I'm here. Yes, this is the screen I was looking for. Just one. Okay, I wanted to see where you're saying is when it's negative, it's inferior, it's normal, or it's inferior. Okay, I think that's fine. Thank you.
All right. Let's go to the overnight test. So this is the previous test that your colleagues wrote. Okay, 23 October, right about this time last year. So the demand curve is given by the following. Okay. So we want to calculate the on-price elasticity of demand. Now, this course, if you don't know, you cannot guess. There are other principles I've talked about that are very important too. take note of. Okay, so now we can proceed. So we're given the demand curve as 1,200 minus 3px minus 0.1 pz. And we've been given the pz is equal to what? 300. And the px has been given as what? 140. Calculate the demand on price elasticity. All right. So this is quantity of good X. What did we say? What's the first thing you're supposed to do here, Thelma?
You substitute the figures in the equation.
Substitute the figures in the equation. Correct, to find the quantity first of all. All right. So here we're going to have 1,200 minus what? What is 340 times 3? It's 140 times 3. 420. And minus what? 30. To start with, what is the relationship between good X and good Y, even by looking? Yes, Thelma.
They are complements.
Complements, yes. But you know, Thelma, you're getting an A in this course, yeah? Okay.
Very soon.
So the quantity is 720. We just substituted the figures X and the price of good Z. Then now, how do we find the price elasticity of demand? The gradient for good X times what? The actual price of good X over what? The overall quantity. Is that okay? What is the gradient for good X from here? Negative what?
-3.
It's 3, correct. And the price for good X is 140 over the quantity overall, 750. All right, together. So far, so good. Anyone behind at this point? So what remains is just evaluation. So when you apply -3 times this, 140, we get 420 divided by 750. We're going to get negative what? 0.56. So elasticity of demand is always negative. So the negative doesn't make it inelastic, but the 0 point something, that is what makes it inelastic. If it was positive, it should be elasticity of supply. If it's negative, it's elasticity of demand. So this is negative 0 point that. Then what is the cross price elasticity between good X and good Z? So cross price elasticity of demand is the gradient for good Y times price for good Y over overall total. What's the price of good Y? Gradient is what? Negative 0.1. The price of good Y, 300. Overall total, 750. So here when you apply these two, it'll be 30 over 750. And we're getting a negative there. So what is our conclusion? We get a negative. That is 0.04. Brian, what is our conclusion? Question is, are they substitutes or complements? Remember the key, if we get negative, Thelma, what did I say?
They are complements.
Yes, complements, correct. A complement. So this is how this question was supposed to be answered in the overnight test. Unless there are any questions. All right, so we'll go through this paper during the physical classes. I've already done the timetable. Of course, it may change tailored to your availability. I want to maximize, if possible, finish the syllabus over the weekend. So those that don't have leave may have an advantage. So for the QM Nigeria economics classes, will be in Lusaka by tomorrow. So Saturday, Sunday, we'll start going through assignments, tests, exam questions, and also those that are in BID, like we advise, we'll be meeting you starting from the morning. Those that are okay, we'll just be doing the revisions in the afternoon from 13 to 17. So please, those that have enrolled, make sure that corporate finance and POM, these are our particular concern. Yeah, and those that are doing financial, the third levels also we have their own schedule. But for those of you taking these courses, please don't be left behind. Let's start as soon as possible and ensure that everyone is on the same boat. Unless there are any things that I've left out. All right. So we'll end here. I'll share the recording in the group. Those that are already paid up, please make sure that you're in the intensive exam revision groups. So that's where the videos will just be sent. And the materials have all been sent. So the prices, it's 650 for those that are doing revision. And those ones that are really learning from scratch is 1,000 at this period that has remained. So you get to access me through this number so that you're added. There's still space for those ones that are coming through, especially those that are really behind and haven't done anything. So in this regard, we will end here. Have a great day.